Hi, and welcome to Changemakers with Eleanor, the podcast where we dive into the lives and lessons of those who are making a difference. I'm your host, Eleanor Baggaley, and in each episode we bring you inspiring stories from leaders, coaches, and people who are not just dreaming of change, but making it happen. Whether they're penning their first book, working in their community, or leading a revolution in their industry, you'll get a first-hand look at how they're shaping the world. If you're looking to leave a mark or simply love a good story about modern-day heroes, you've come to the right place. Here, we're all about changing the world, whether that's one person's world or the world in general. So grab your notebook or just a comfortable seat and let's explore these fascinating journeys together. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts to ensure you never miss an episode. Let's go change the world together. So I have the absolute pleasure of welcoming Danielle onto the show this week. So Danielle, well, do you prefer Danielle or Danny?
Wow, it's a good question. Danielle is kind of in my personal life, but Danny is more of a work thing because I call myself Flow with Danny for work. So
Okay,
either
that's
works.
what I thought.
Either works.
As I was
Yeah.
supposed to. So we've got Danny then. So Danny, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are, what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I am a psychic healer, astrologer, and author. And I teach people how to trust themselves and their intuition and the journey of following that and what can happen and normalizing different stages of that journey. I help people with the emotions that come up because it can trigger a lot of fear, a lot of insecurities, a lot of panic. All sorts of things can come up when you follow your intuition because what most people don't let you know is it's always taking you out of your comfort zone because your soul is here to grow and evolve. So that brings up challenges and you need support with that sometimes. So I help people deal with the emotions that stop them from taking the actions that they intuitively know that they need to, because that can be the first block, is that some people can actually be super intuitive, but they don't trust it or they don't act on it. And then it blocks the flow. So I help people move through it. I'm also with the astrology, that's like a cheat sheet for me. So I can see what people signed up for in this lifetime. I can see their strengths, their weaknesses, their pain points, their growth areas. So I combine those two things together to really support them on the journey. And I've written the book, How to Really Go with the Flow. So that's like a really handy guidebook for people to really dive into. And there's lots of like journal prompts in there and really personal experiences and stories. And it's quite funny because I'm very honest and real about how difficult it's been for me. Because often, I don't know if you find this, but the person that writes the book is the one that needs it the most.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
And they're the best at teaching it, because if it was easy for me, I wouldn't have hit up against all these like challenges and difficulties and fear that I've had to work through. So actually now, being like 10 years into this journey, I can look back and be grateful for those things. But at the time I was like, what is going on? This is hell. Like, come on. It's got to be, it's got to be easier at some point. But then every year I kind of like deepen into surrender and trust. And because I've got this like big catalogue of experiences where things have worked out for me, and I can kind of look back and think, oh, I can see why I had to go through that. I can see why that was an important part of my journey. Then you start to kind of relax into it a little bit more. But I still have my days. I still have my days when it's not easy.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, I guess because I'm always the one that says like everything that happens for a reason, and I do genuinely truly believe that it's, and I guess kind of I do feel like I'm quite an intuitive person, and obviously when we were chatting earlier, I always feel like I've got a really good gut instinct with people, and I've almost stopped myself from saying like "told you so" when other people find out about them, because it's just, well, I need other people to trust my intuition as well as me trusting it.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Yeah.
It's interesting, kind of that kind of like, why do some people find it easier to trust their intuition than others?
Good question. I think some people have more of a natural ability with it. in terms of astrology, if you have a lot of water in your chart, like Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, that is the intuitive part. But I think everyone can learn to be more intuitive. And for me, the more in touch I was with my emotional world, the more my intuition turned up the dial. So I think sometimes people are suppressing that part of themselves, and they never really fully access the superpower that it is, because emotions and intuition go hand in hand. So I think the more in touch you are with your emotional world, the more your intuition is strong and powerful. But I also think it's dependent on the way you were raised as well. Were you in a family that taught you to, conform and override your intuition? Like, were you, because you can start, like, as children, they know what they want, they know what they need, they have this like powerful instinct, but like through no fault of their own, parents are doing their best, but they can sometimes shut that down, or kind of condition it out of people. So then you start to doubt yourself. Because when I was a child, I was very, I have psychic abilities. And, as a child, I was scared of that because I could like hear voices and I would feel presence, I could feel energy around me. And I was like, oh, what is going on? And I just thought it was ghosts. You don't know as a child what's going on. So if I ever mentioned it to my mum, she's like, oh, it's okay. There's nothing there, nothing to worry about. So she's trying to make me feel better and safe, but it was denying the fact that it was there and something was happening.
Yeah.
So I shut it down because I was scared of it. So it wasn't until I turned 30 that I started to activate all of those things again. And then I realized how much of a gift it was. But, and everyone's experience with these things is different and unique. But, if you don't grow up in a family where that is kind of nurtured and held, then it can come out sideways, or it gets suppressed. So I help people to like bring it back online and turn up the dial so that you're like, yes. So yeah, that's what I love to do. Reconnect people with themselves rather than living by somebody else's standards and rules.
Yeah, yeah. So how did you, obviously you said that kind of some of it was suppressed kind of in childhood and things like that. So how did you kind of get into this is what you do for you and for other people?
Yeah, it's a good question. So really it started with, I had a health problem. I had like an ongoing hormonal imbalance. And it was because of that that I started to explore alternative therapies, because the medical, I had blood tests. They didn't know what was going on with me. They just said, good luck, sort of thing. And I thought, right, okay, I'm going to go get a second opinion on this because I know my body's trying to tell me something. So then I trained in lots of different things. I trained in Reiki, kinesiology. Then I went on to study astrology. I started to go to psychic development groups. And like the more all of these things turned on, the more like my hormones started to balance. So, and I didn't know which direction it was taking me in. I was just following one step at a time, which is what intuition is. You don't get the 5-year plan, you only get the next step. So you have to really trust and surrender and think, okay, well, this doesn't make any logical sense, because intuition never does. Emotions don't make sense either. They just need to be felt and moved through the body. So it's just like, okay, I don't know why I'm doing this or why I need to go there. But as soon as you do, it starts to make sense with time and trust. So then eventually during lockdown, that's when I felt guided to write the book. So I actually channeled the book. And, then I was guided to the right publisher at the right time. Like all of that was just like, I was like, oh my God, I've never written a book before. I don't know how to do this. Show me the way. And like one thing led to the next, and it happened. So then I was like, because I was like, I've spotted a pattern with this, and I've been doing it alone and it's been really hard. And I've had to figure out a lot of stuff by myself. And that was my path, but I never want anyone to go through it alone. That's my motivation now, is to be like, it's okay, I can hold your hand, I can show you the way. It doesn't have to be difficult. I make it really fun. Like I make it quite playful, and like I'm very good at holding space for deep emotional pain, and I make it feel lighter for people. And I know it's incredibly painful, and I've been through a lot of my own dark nights of the soul, as I call it. And because I've come through so many of them, I know that really they're just transformation, and there's like, it's cracking you open to your next evolution, your next identity in this world. So I really just love supporting people to get from where I did to where I am now, but quickly and more fun and like in a supported way. So that's really, and so then I created some other tools because I've got these are my oracle cards. So I created these, so they're like quick guidance for the day. I've got another set as well that I created, and yeah, online courses and things like that, just so that people can dip into whatever they need when they need it and trust their intuition about what it is that they need.
So what kind of the biggest successes that you've had? So either your own successes or people who you've been working with, kind of their breakthroughs and things like that. So what are some of the biggest successes that you've kind of seen from
I,
following your intuition or others following theirs?
it's a good question. I think it's just a deeper sense of peace. It's not necessarily about these like big external validation. It's more about this internal sense of peace and like this coming back to themselves and being at peace with themselves. Because I'm an energy sensitive. So when I'm around people, I can feel when they're stressed. I can feel when they're anxious. I can feel when they're in their heads. And I'm just like, it's like a pandemic. I'm just like, is there anyone who's present in their body here? Because I want to connect and everyone's busy like trying to outrun their emotional pain. That's what it feels like to me. And I'm like, oh, this is hard to be around. And it feels, because I know that you can move through that. That's the greatest gift. That's the greatest thing that people receive by working with me. They just, after every session, they look younger, they look lighter, they look brighter. They've like shed something that they've been carrying for years. I've had people come to me who have been in therapy for years, weekly therapy, talking therapy, traditional therapy. And within 3 sessions of working with me, we have uncovered and cleared something that is like that they've never been able to share with anyone. And that was at the root of the problem, because I like to go right to the root. So I feel like I create this safe space where people know, I feel like you can only take people as deep as you've gone yourself. So because I'm always doing my own internal work and I'm always diving deep and I'm amazed at how much more I'm discovering every single day, and I sit in silence a lot, I do a lot of meditation, I take really good care of myself. So I'm like a clear channel that means that I can then help people realign to their truth. And that is the greatest gift. Because once you align to your truth, you make good decisions. Like life's just easier. You're never in the wrong place. You don't get this like fear of missing out that everyone's talking about. I'm like, I can't even remember that feeling. Like, what? I was like, it's either a yes or a no. And if it's a no, I'm not meant to be there. Like, and if it's a yes, I'll be there. And I can't miss anything because I'm always where I need to be. And I'm always around the people that I need to be around. So it's just aligning people to the natural flow of their life, which I think is like the greatest gift.
I think my issue is I say yes to everything. I barely say no to anything at all.
Really? Why? But does your intuition say no?
No, I don't think. No, I don't think so. I just, to be fair, I'm probably getting better at the saying no to things, and maybe that's. But yeah, I don't think I get the FOMO really. To be fair, either.
Yeah.
It's just.
It's like it's when you're like fully in alignment, like you know where your boundaries are, and you just know. I just instantly know the oh god no, and then I find out later. I'm like, I'm really glad I didn't go because then I hear about it, and I don't know. Sometimes I don't even know why I'm saying no, but it's just like I got no enthusiasm, no excitement to be there. I'm not going, and I could be free, I could be available. I live quite a spacious life, but I can still feel like it's a no, and then later I'll find out. Oh, it was really noisy or cold in the restaurant that they went to, or the food was really bad, or like the conversation was a bit heavy, or like, and I'm just like, cool, yeah, I wasn't meant to be there. Like, so I think maybe use your intuition more to make decisions, because sometimes again you can just be taught that if you're available, you say yes. If you can, you say yes. But does that actually feel true to you? Is that something you've learned?
Yeah, to be fair, actually, they have now you've kind of explained it like that. I've been thinking through recent things like, oh, actually, yeah, I did say no to doing that, and I did say no to doing that. I think I possibly the things I say no to, just it's like no, and it's gone, so I don't actually remember them. So maybe it just
Yeah.
feels like I say yes to everything
Okay.
And anyone that knows me that listens to this will be going, no, Eleanor, you do say yes to everything, because I do say yes to a lot, to be fair. But yeah,
Okay. But
yeah,
then, everyone's path is different. So maybe the yes is right for you. I find that
yeah,
for me, I'm very discerning about where my time and energy goes, and that's my path. But we're all doing it in our own ways. So
yeah,
as long as
yeah.
it's true to you and your intuition is guiding you, you can't go wrong. If you're making decisions from your logical mind, that's where you're going to trip up, in my opinion.
Yeah, I guess I have. So I kind of come from a very like a mathsy, sciencey background. So I have
Mm.
that, and I've always said I have this conflict between that kind of the logical side and the other side as well. So yeah, that's interesting take to consider actually the fact that
Both
that
both are
conflict
valid though. Like
possibly.
I don't want to sorry to interrupt, but I
Oh
don't
yeah,
want to
no, no.
discount the logical mind. But what I would say is make decisions and receive guidance from your intuition, then use your logical mind to action it.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way I work because I was always very, I lived the first 30 years of my life on my head and it was busy and it was like confused and very dependent on what other people told me. I was asking everyone else for their opinion because I didn't know what mine was. So I was just like, what do you think I should do? Or what do you think I should do? And I was like being pushed and pulled and it was just so stressful. And then I was like, now decisions are so easy. It's so obvious. I just drop in and I'm like, how does this feel in my body? Oh, it's a no. And then it's like you also have to have the confidence and the self-worth or self-value to say no, and also to maybe be disliked sometimes because some people are just saying yes because they don't want to disappoint people or they don't want to let people down or they don't want to be seen as boring. I'm like,
I come from
well,
the not wanting to disappoint people a lot of the time, to be fair, and that is something that I've worked on. So like, whereas my intuition with people and that gut instinct of knowing what people are like, I guess that side of the saying yes for a people pleasing purpose is definitely something that I have kind of been working on quite a lot over the last couple of years, I guess.
yeah, and I can add more to this because the people that are very intuitive are also generally empaths. So they feel people. They can feel how when you express a no, how they are going to receive it. You can sense, oh, this they're not going to like this, or so then you're almost protecting them from their pain of not having a yes, and also you from your pain of having to be maybe seen as someone who doesn't just go along with things. But all of that is part of the journey. Like that's how complex it is. It gets very nuanced, and it shows you where all your kind of sore spots are and where you're acting from automatic responses instead of like true intuitive responses.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting, actually. That is interesting. What are some of the biggest challenges you've come up against? I'm guessing kind
Oh,
of getting to
oh,
that
so
point
many,
of,
so many,
but yeah,
so
what's,
many.
yeah.
Perfectionism, like to write the book,
Mm,
self-worth issues. Like I was just like, I always had like confidence issues around the way that I spoke and the way that I write. Like at school, I wasn't very good at grammar, and I'm probably still not. But I was like, I actually have things to say. It's still important that I express this, and I've done the best I
but
can.
other
So I had
people
to
are there to sort that out.
I know, but also receiving help was another problem for me. I did it all by myself,
Mm,
Little Miss Independent. And I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? And like creating the oracle cards. I had like financial restrictions at that time. Like I couldn't afford to, well, I could have, but I chose not to have a graphic designer do the oracle cards, for example. And I also wanted like creative control because you would have had to gone back and forth and every edit costs you money and they don't really understand what you want. So I was like, I can't do it that way. So every time I had a new creative project to put out there, I had to figure out how to do it. And I was impatient as well. So I was always trying to go too fast. So then I'd get it wrong. I'd get up and then I'd be like, right, backtrack, slow down, take my time. There's no rush with this. So I've hit every hurdle you can imagine, really. But and then it keeps coming up. Your life lessons will keep coming up until you go, fine, I'm fine. Okay, if I have to learn patience, then show me how. Show me, like, make me a patient person. And I am so much better than I used to be. Like, my family just say it's so relaxing to be around you because there's no, I'm like, it's okay. We're just like, what, there's no drama. There's no like rush. There's no, you don't have to entertain me. I'm very easily pleased. I'm quite just a relaxed person. And I think that that is in my energy field. So when people are around me, it gives them permission to relax and to be themselves. Because a lot of people say to me, oh, I just feel like I can be myself around you. I'm like, yeah, because my soul demands it. Because I'll call it out if you're not. I can see through people's like, masks and
Yeah.
and all that stuff.
Do you find it's harder to trust your intuition when you're in those kind of moments of, so like where you said you were doubting your self-worth or your confidence or the wanting to do things for yourself? Is it harder to then go back and trust that intuition?
Yeah, I think when you need your intuition, like when you're in a heightened stress situation, is when you really need your intuition, but you can't access it. That's the irony of it, because intuition speaks from calm and peace. But if you're stressed, you've like churned up the snow globe and there's like chaos and you can't see clearly. So, you don't act from that place because you'll be acting from fear and not faith, which is the opposite, of what I'm teaching people. So really, when you're in this heightened stress, and some people live in constant heightened stress, and I feel it.
I
It's
did
like,
for a long time, to be fair.
yeah,
So yeah.
it's so, I feel for those people because I was that too, and I didn't even realize it at the time, but it doesn't, you can move past it. But so this is, if you're in that heightened, like I've got one of my oracle cards says, "Me head's gone," which is like you're in a state of overwhelm. And I'm like, just relax. Like sometimes if there's a big astrological event going on and you're sensitive, you can feel very ungrounded and very like wired or, wired but tired, and all sorts of things can happen. So then it's just about like stripping it back, going back to simplicity, go out in nature, do things really slowly, sip your like hot drink in the morning, breathe, do whatever you need to do to come back to neutral, and then eventually your intuition will come back online. But that can be quite a scary place to occupy because you're like, shit, I need some answers, but I can't access anything. So you really need to do something that like really relaxes you. And again, that can be different for different people. And you kind of, I have in the book the flow survival kit. So there's certain things that I recommend because it is hard, and you do need tools to like fall back on that kind of are supportive for you to move through those times when it does get difficult. So I'm very realistic about the journey.
Okay. What are your plans for the future? So and I know this might be really difficult because I know you said like you literally do one step ahead of you, but this is a question that I ask everyone. So I'm still going to ask you, like, do you have a plan for where you would like this to go, whether it's short-term future, long-term future, or is your future literally, I'm just going to trust in the next step as I go through my life?
I mean, I have an overall vision that I would love my work to reach all of the people that would benefit from it. That's my overall vision, is that I know what I've created is highly valuable and needed. So I think I am in a place at the moment where I need to like let other people support me and show me the way, because there's only so much I can do by myself. So like the podcast definitely feels like a short term, obviously it's a longer term commitment because I'm going to start my own podcast soon, but it's a short term sort of focus for me is to get the podcast started and join other people's podcasts just so I can start to share what I do more widely. And yeah, I've played around with different ideas because I started an online membership last year, but that taught me a load of things about where I was still overgiving and not being able to receive. And, so I may relaunch that at some point in the future. I want to do on my podcast, I wanted to show some live healing sessions so that people who watch it will be able to tap along with it, because I use EFT tapping, which is like acupuncture without the needles. And I want to do it on specific topics so that anyone who's experiencing that can watch it and receive the healing benefit and realize that these things you can move through and you can feel better very quickly. So I feel that feels like where I'm going And like who knows what's possible with this stuff? Like, I don't really know much beyond that. I have a second book that I've written called Letting Go Reluctantly, and it's just a PDF sat on my website at the moment. And I'm like still praying for guidance on that. Like, okay, that's a very useful resource for people. It needs editing carefully because it's a very complex, it was channeled, and there's sort of channeled messages in there, and even the typos were like important part of the writing, so it needs to be handled really carefully. So again, I'm kind of just dropping more into like magnetism of calling in the things I need and knowing that I'm not doing it alone. That's where I'm at. So yeah, long-term plan. I don't know if I'll ever have one of those. Because it can change anyway. Like because I've moved to Portugal recently, and like because I move around, when my intuition says, right, this chapter's closing, go somewhere else. So I'm in Portugal, and I tried to do it with a plan this time because I've moved before and not had the next step, and that was scary, but I survived and it all worked out well. And this time I was like, I'll do it sensibly. I'll have something to come back to. So I arranged that I'd move into this house where I was living in Frome in the UK. And then about 2 weeks into being in Portugal, I got a message from my friend who was living there saying, "Oh, there's no room here anymore for you." I was like, "Oh yeah, that sounds about right." That's and it's 11:11 as I say that, which I think is quite hilarious because that's an angel number. So I was like, okay, but like in the past, I might have panicked and had a freak out about that because I'm human and I need my basic needs met. And I was like, but now I'm like, oh, okay, interesting. I get more curious about it. And then I'm like, okay, well, there must be something better. Or maybe I'm meant to be somewhere else. Or maybe this is going to evolve differently. And, I still have 1 month left in Portugal and I still don't know where I'm going. So that's how I live. So watch this
You've just
space.
reminded me actually. Yeah, so well, it was 10 years ago now. So when I was teaching, and a student of mine passed away. She had a brain tumor, very kind of quick turnaround. She passed away. And I'd worked with her quite closely, and it really hit me hard. And that was when you were talking about before about we live in like a really stressful. I was in a high stress period, just teaching generally. Then anyway,
Yeah.
leading math department, and then my grandma passed away the following year, and that
Oh,
September going back, and I was just like, "This is my last year of teaching. I don't know what I'm going to be doing, but this is my last year of teaching." And it was the week before May half term, which is when teachers have to hand in their notice if they're not coming back in the September. And I'm like, oh, I said, this was my last year of teaching and I don't know what I'm going to do. And I've got like 5 days to hand my notice in, but I don't know what I'm going to do. And literally like that week, someone came and said, do you want to come and work with us and do kind of X, Y, Z? I was like,
yeah.
no way. It was the September, going back in the September 2016 was when I'd said kind of I'm not going back. And then it was the May
Yeah.
2017. And yeah, and it was like, wow, okay. And that was, I just totally, and I hadn't even given it much thought over that entire time period. I just said, this is my last year of teaching. I know it's going to be my last year of teaching. Don't know where it's going to take me. And
Yeah.
probably since then, the last 10 years for me have probably been like just following what I want to do, I guess, more than anything.
Exactly. That's it. I love that story because, and it's like sometimes with intuition, you get given a bit of a heads up, like you kind of have a sense this is coming to an end. And some people ignore that. And if they're like earth signs, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, they get a bit stuck and they're like, no, I'm going to stay the same forevermore. It's like, no, you sometimes, and if they do, the rug gets pulled from underneath their feet. Sometimes there's a tower moment, I call it, which is when the universe says no, this change needs to happen, and then suddenly you can be made redundant or something like that.
Yeah,
So it's nicer to do it on your terms. So I'm glad you responded
definitely.
to the nudge that this isn't working for me anymore, and that you open to receive a new way, and you didn't know, and sometimes you don't know the how, but you just have to trust that there is a how and it will be
Mm.
revealed when you need it.
See, I always say I love change, and I know a lot of people like are really resistant to change. And I'm just like, oh my God, I love change. And even as a kid, I would like change my bedroom around every 5 minutes. And I wonder whether that's got something to, whether that kind of ties in that it's like once you've not got that fear of something being different, you're more able to trust in your intuition and your
Yeah,
instincts.
absolutely. So with the flow philosophy, which is what I outline in the book, there's like 4 stages of flow. And if we use the acronym FLOW, I'll explain, because certain people and personalities find particular stages easier than others. So you sound like you're more of like a leap, that you can change, you can roll with the changes that need to happen. But you might get a bit stuck somewhere else. So I'll give you an outline and then you can let me know where you're at with it. So it's faith. Faith is like being connected to your intuition or something greater than you. So that can be spirituality, can be religion, can be whatever it is that you connect with. You know, I'm not prescriptive about that. But that can sometimes take some skill development, because if you haven't lived like that, you need to pick up some tools that help you to really tune in and connect with it and trust it. So it starts with faith. Then once you're connected to that deep knowing, then you receive guidance from it, like, oh, this job might not be for me anymore, or this relationship might not be for me anymore. And then it's what you do with that. So the leap comes next, which is the leap of faith. So if you do not act on it, you stay in fear. You know, you're not trusting, you're in fear, and you get stuck, and it gets more and more uncomfortable, because the universe doesn't want you to be in something that's not good for you. But it does take courage. Like, so if you have a lot of fire in your chart, for example, the Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, they are very courageous and very impulsive, and so they can make changes. So leaping was always easy for me too. I like change and variety. But I would caveat that even when you're choosing change, it's still stressful and there's still emotions to be
Yeah.
processed. You know, it's not always easy, even if you know it's the right thing to do, which is where the next stage comes in, which is open. And open is about like your emotional world being activated, because there's a loss that's being processed. You were a teacher for however long, you know, you're in a relationship for however long. And even though you know it's right to let it go, there's still a sense of loss and grief that needs to be held. And then there's like this unknown that gets, you know, presented to us, which can really trigger a lot of people. I hated the unknown for so long. And now I'm like, okay, let's just embrace it. This isn't going anywhere. It's always going to be there. And really everything is unknown. So we might as well I think that is the key to being human. Embrace the unknown. And you're all right,
Yeah,
you know?
totally. Yeah.
So then all these emotions come to the surface: fears, insecurities, self-doubt. What have I done? Have I done the right thing? Oh shit, what am I doing? Like, in all of that comes up. So then you have to like really be with your emotional self, take good care of yourself, maybe get support at that time. And then you have the wait stage, which is when you're given time to rest and recover from the change that you've implemented. And that's where some people, again, if they're like doers, and they're always productive and they feel good when they're doing things, then they don't allow themselves enough time to rest and integrate. Yeah, I got you. See, I told you there's going to be something that's going to be hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, and I struggled with that too, because I was like, oh, impatient, but really it's kind of fear being expressed in a different way, because you don't feel safe to rest, you don't feel held or supported. It's like, I need to make things happen, I need to be
Yeah.
doing something to feel good about myself. And actually, if you can just go, wow, I've been through a lot and I need to just drop in and take stock of that,
That is
then
really interesting.
yeah, surrender to it. Honestly, it's a gift, but we see it as a curse, and it's like, and in society, it's not kind of something that's seen as valuable. Like, oh, the amount of people that ask me, "What are you doing today, Danny?" I'm like, I don't know, maybe nothing. I don't know. Like, so I live a very relaxed life, but they always want to know what I'm doing, and I'm like, what? Like, I don't know. Something will happen. I'm just gonna go with the flow of the day. But they always want to know like the ABC of what have I got? What am I going to achieve today? It's like, chill out. You know, that's not the way I roll.
Yeah, no, that is really interesting. So I was, I'm in like I'm in a few different accountability groups and things, but one of them, we met up last month, and with kind of everything that I'm going through at the moment, and we were planning out kind of what our next 3 months. It's like, what are we going to work on in the next 3 months? And I was just like, there's just so much going on, and they all said, so your plan for the next 3 months is to do nothing, and I was like, I was like, I don't know
Mhm.
whether I can do that. And they were just like, you need to just go and do, like, just go and just see what, like, if you had all the time, what would you do for yourself? And I'm like, I don't know, because I never do anything for myself. And
Yeah.
that's where they've just basically just tasked me with, just go, just do nothing and see what it is that comes along that you actually want to do for yourself. And it has been interesting. It
Yeah, I
has.
love that they like the synchronicities of this conversation with that as well. But the thing is, like, sometimes people don't want to stop because then they have to be with themselves and all the things
Yeah.
that they're not feeling. So it's a coping strategy to be busy because there's, especially if you're going through emotionally difficult things, it's like, oh, I don't want to feel that. I don't want to be with that. Oh, I don't want to. And so people just keep out trying to outrun their emotional world is what I see quite a lot of. And it's again giving yourself permission, like despite society's expectations of you, your own expectations of yourself, to like be
Yeah.
this certain person. It's just like, actually, what do, if I loved myself and like nothing was it, like there was no rush and everything's okay and I always have everything I need, what would I really love to do today? Like, and ask your inner child, like, does she need a duvet day? Does she want to watch a box set? Like, I always eat chocolate and watch a box set when I want to chill out, or like just go for a long walk or sit in a cafe. Like, it can be, again, it's unique to each individual what you feel you truly need, but it's not what you should do, it's what you really want to do. And
Yeah.
sometimes it takes a while to get reconnected with that because you've again, you might have like forgotten a part of yourself or got a little bit lost along the way with other people's needs being more important than yours. So it's a really good opportunity to like figure out, what do I like doing.
Yeah, I'm still in the middle of that at the moment. There's been a few things, but that have popped up. But yeah, I'm still in the middle of that kind of exploration there. But I guess it's a nice reminder for that kind of to come back to yourself and who you want to be and who you are, rather than that kind of outside influence.
Yeah, and it's quite hard to get back to that neutral place because it's the noise of life is loud. So you really have
Mm.
to like go, shh, I'm gonna just see what I need. And like I find, yeah, just quiet time, because again, that's something that a lot of people don't do, is they're always on their phones, they're always watching something, they're a podcast and there's this, and it's like that's all ways of being brainwashed by other people's information and disconnected from your own. And I love a good podcast, I love tech, I love all that stuff too, but it's getting that balance between listening to your own inner voice versus the noise of outside. Yeah, so yeah, I'm excited for you, it's a good opportunity.
Who knows where it'll go? Um, so before we kind of come towards the end of this, I always ask everybody to tell us a fun fact, something interesting, something fun, something unusual about you that might surprise people, that people might not know. Is there
Uh,
anything that comes to mind?
the only thing that comes to mind is that I have a secret obsession with dating shows. Like, I just love watching. I love love. I love watching like Love Is Blind and Married at First Sight. I love the psychology of love. I love people opening their hearts to love. I love seeing the journey of that. So that's my little confession for the day.
I'm
That's my
trying to
vice.
think. I'm sure I came across one. I'm hoping I've not dreamt this, and this is just some weird kind of insight into my inner workings of my brain. But I'm sure I came across one on the TV, and I can't think where on earth it was.
The
And
naked one.
it was, yes.
Yes, that's true. I've watched it. I've watched it. They were on an island, obviously somewhere warm enough to be naked, and they all turned up naked and then they
Oh,
dated.
no,
Yeah.
this is
Oh no.
different.
Oh.
So they were in like cubicles. Oh my God, I'm hoping that this isn't some weird kind of thing. So
Oh
they were
wait,
in
Love Is
cubicles.
Blind. That's Love Is Blind. You when they're sat in pods and then they're dating through a wall.
No, they're naked. So it shows different parts of their body at
Oh,
different times.
that's Naked Attraction. That's not a dating show. Oh no, it is. It is because yeah, no, when they have them like lined up and then they reveal. I know that's not my I don't watch that one so much, but I think it's good, like, to see normal bodies and the
Yeah.
variety rather than this perfect body that we're always shoved in our faces. I actually think it's nice that people are brave enough to be vulnerable in that way and to just normalize normal bodies. So, but I don't particularly like watching that one so much.
No, I can't even remember where I was and how I came across it. I'm glad that this wasn't like something weird that was going on in my head, and it was something that I have actually seen on TV. But it was one of those. It was like, is this actually what I'm seeing right
Yeah,
now? And you know, when you just kind of like watch it because you're like, is this really what's
yeah.
on TV?
Yeah. The Channel 4, you can expect strange things from Channel 4. Or it might be Channel 5. I don't know, one of those that it's always
Yeah, I don't know. I
yeah.
think I might have been away somewhere and it was like literally hotel television. And so it was
Yeah.
like flicking through and it was
Yeah.
just like, what? Okay, right. At least we've cleared that it's not just my weird brain then.
There we are.
Um,
There we are.
that's good to know. So if people want to find out a little bit more about your book or about how they can work with you, where are they best kind of finding out more about you?
Yeah, so my website is flowwithdanny.co.uk. That's where everything is, and it's one N, one I for the Danny. I'm on Instagram at Flow with Danny Healing. And the best way to work with me currently, this may change, but is a deep dive program, which is like 3 months of support with me. And they get a care parcel and astrology and one-to-one sessions with me. So they've got 3 months to really unpack all the things that are getting in the way of their natural flow and rhythm in life. So yeah, that's me.
Okay, super. And we'll make sure that we share all the links and things in the show notes as well. So,
Thank
well,
you.
thank you, Danny. It's been really interesting. It's been really kind of, I guess, I feel like I've been on a personal journey over the last kind of 40 minutes or so going through the podcast with you. So thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for being so open and asking such good questions.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Changemakers with Eleanor. I hope you're leaving as inspired as I am. If today's story has sparked something in you, remember it's never too late to start making a difference. Whether it's writing that book you've always dreamed of, stepping up in your community, or starting that campaign you're passionate about. If you enjoyed our time together, please consider giving us a rating and review on your favourite podcast platform and share this episode with someone who could use a little inspiration. Your support helps us to reach more changemakers just like you. Join me, Eleanor, in the next episode for another deep dive into the stories of those who dare to dream big. Until then, be your greatest. See you next time.